This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com. Today's episode is brought to you by RapidCloud. Did you know that 53% of users abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load? For businesses relying on WordPress, every second counts for user experience, conversions, SEO rankings, and revenue. And that's where RapidCloud comes in. RapidCloud is a high-performance managed WordPress hosting solution with advanced technologies like Lightspeed Enterprise and Object Cache Pro designed to deliver lightning-fast load times and handle the demands of today's dynamic websites. Whether you're running an e-commerce store, online learning platform, or a bustling media site, RapidCloud ensures lightning-fast performance, unmatched scalability, and enterprise-grade security, all backed by 24/7 expert support. RapidCloud empowers developers, business owners, and agencies to deliver seamless online experiences without ever worrying about downtime or slow load times. Use the promo code CODESTORY to get up to 25% off on all annual plans and 10% off monthly subscriptions. Offer valid for 2 billing periods only. That's promo code CODESTORY, all one word. Visit www.rapid.cloud and get started today. That's RAPYD.cloud.
And so in the middle, what I did was went through a pretty rigorous hiring process that was advised to me by various people. And when we got to the end of the process, I asked one of my founding engineers, my favorite question I've ever asked, which was, hey, this has been really great getting to know you. We want to go ahead and give you an offer. But here's the deal. This is going to be a lot of work. This is not going to be a lifestyle role. You could probably make double this at some IPO'd or Series D stage company. In order to make you feel like you didn't waste your time, I'm going to offer you a $5,000 Visa gift card right now to walk away. If you accept that, I'll send it to you right after this call. If you don't, then you can join our team. And welcome to Thoughtly. My name is Torrey Leonard, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Thoughtly.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to
took
do next.
many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
Company is its
The
people.
teams help each other achieve. I was proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it. Not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Loudpart, and today how Torrey Leonard has created your fully integrated AI call center so your business is never left on hold. This episode is sponsored by Speakeasy. Grow your API user adoption and improve engineering velocity with friction-free integration experiences. With Speakeasy's platform, you can now automatically generate SDKs in 10 languages and Terraform providers in minutes. Visit speakeasy.com/codestory and generate your first SDK for free. This message is sponsored by QA Wolf. QA Wolf gets engineering teams to 80% automated end-to-end test coverage and helps them ship 5 times faster by reducing QA cycles from hours to minutes. With over 100 5-star reviews on G2 and customer testimonials from SalesLoft, Drata, and AutoTrader, you're in good hands. Join the Wolfpack. at qawolf.com. Torrey Leonard lived in Maryland prior to moving to New York City. In 7th grade, his claim to fame was building the world's largest Minecraft server. In early high school, he had over 1 million users, made 6 figures, and was fueled by open source software that still runs on most Minecraft servers today. Outside of tech and gaming, he loves to play pickleball and really enjoys skiing, though he confesses that in New York, it's harder to do these hobbies financially and logistically. Last summer, Torrey built a platform that allowed you to build out voice agents. After doing so, he realized that there wasn't a good way to do this through a UI. This was an obvious thing that needed to be built. He decided to leave his prior company to pursue this vision, which headed towards the Zapier for call center agents. This is the creation story of Thoughtly.
Thoughtly, essentially what we do is we build AI agents that handle inbound and outbound phone calls for your company. Think of us as like a Zapier for call center agents. We connect all of your different softwares by doing things before calls, triggering calls, doing things after calls, like Zapier, right? Passing variables in between each, or even doing things during a call. But the call itself is actually done by an AI agent in the cloud that's fully trained on your script and your entire business as a company and kind of all of your internal information. All of that goes into this agent that can talk on the phone just like you would train your human agents to do. We really started, interestingly enough, last summer. I built an agent platform out that allowed you to script voice agents generally. So any sort of voice agent, whether it was on like a Google Meet or an SMS conversation, I found that there was no real easy way through a user interface that was really easy to use, not very complicated, to build out these agents. Everybody's doing something like prompt engineering, which most businesses don't really have an understanding of how to do. When building Thoughtly, it was really like, what would the best platform look like in order to make it the easiest to build an agent and script what it should say at what certain point in the conversation. And it kind of looks like the history of dialogue design software that you'd see with platforms like Google's Dialogflow CX, with intents and going from an intent to a different node, like a decision tree. But today, that is now a fully generative conversation builder that we have on Thoughtly. So that's what we do at a high level.
Let's dive into the MVP then. So that first version of the product you built, how long did it take to build and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life? You kind of touched on it some at a very high level, but dive in.
The first MVP, I realized what I want to do with the very, very first version is have an agent talk on what looked like a Google Meet, and that would be one thing. And then the other thing in the platform would be that you could actually build and script the agent. And so the initial, very basic MVP was I'm going to figure out how to build both of these systems. So part one was the actual call. And I thought I could figure out how to actually connect it to a Google Meet or Zoom, or I could just build my own Google Meet or Zoom. So I ended up building Google Meet itself very quickly, actually. It's far easier to build Google Meet, the very basic version, right? Not with like emojis and face filters. But building that was pretty simple. And it was really just a lot of web APIs, basic browser APIs. Making it extendable to multiple browsers became very complicated. But it was honestly a lot easier than I thought, than just kind of baking it into a Google Meet session itself. Then the agent builder, I wanted to have this, like I mentioned a minute ago, sort of decision tree style interface. The best one out there is React Flow. And so React Flow plugged right into, is using Next.js for the front end dashboard. It made a lot of sense and it worked very well. And it's actually really easy to use. It's probably my favorite open source library I've ever worked with, because it's just so advanced and it has so much functionality, but it's so simple. And so really React Flow is what the MVP initially used. And we're actually still using React Flow to this day to build out that sort of decision tree that I mentioned. And then once I got it in the hands of some customers, they would ask for one thing or another. I thought, oh, these are great things we should build in, things like a RAG system built on Pinecone TV, where you could upload documentation and it would convert it to text and then store it in the database, the vector database, which could then be drawn upon by the agent during a conversation. And then over time, things like that kept getting added. And so the MVP just kept getting larger and larger whenever somebody asked for something that might be useful for them. In the early days, it's all about listening to customers, figuring out who is your customer, and then continuing to iterate on what they need. And so eventually people started saying, this is really neat, but I'd like for it to talk on the phone. That's when things started to really change towards the direction of being an actual AI agent for phone calls.
This episode is sponsored by Speakeasy. Whether you're growing the user adoption of your public API or streamlining internal development, SDKs can turn the chore of API integration into effortless implementation. Unburden your API users from guessing their way around your API while keeping your team focused on your product. Shorten the time to live integration and provide a delightful experience for your customers. With Speakeasy's platform, you can now automatically generate up-to-date, robust, idiomatic SDKs in 10 languages and Terraform providers in just a matter of minutes. SDKs are feature-rich with type safety, auto-retries, and pagination. Everything you need to give your API the developer experience it deserves. Deliver a premium API experience without the premium price tag. Visit speakeasy.com/codestory to get started and generate your first SDK for free. This message is sponsored by SnapTrade. Link in user brokerage accounts and build world-class investing experiences with SnapTrade's unified brokerage API. With over $12 billion in connected assets and over 300,000 connected accounts, SnapTrade's API quality and developer experience are second to none. SnapTrade is SOC 2 certified and uses industry-leading security practices. Developers can use the company's official client SDKs to build investing experiences in minutes without the limitations of traditional aggregators. Get started for free today by visiting snaptrade.com/codestory. You've got the MVP, right? And you start getting that feedback and you start moving towards the AI call center. How did you progress the product from there? How did you mature it? And I think to wrap in the box a little bit, what I'm looking for is how you built your roadmap, how you went about deciding that, okay, this thing is the next most important thing to build or to address with Thoughtly.
The problem that anyone would really find when they build an MVP is if you're able to get enough demand, so meaning you're able to go out, do what YC says, which is like find 100 people to pay you $10, then the 100 people are all going to have their own requests. Each person is going to say something different. If you were to take and aggregate all of these requests, so like customer number 1 says, oh, I want to use this with my Salesforce. Customer number 2 says, oh, can you connect this to my Calendly or my HubSpot? Instead of building each thing one by one, what I found is the best thing to do is just build this Venn diagram and take every single customer request and try to correlate them somehow with one another. It took a bit of thinking to get to that stage. That became a huge part of how to build the roadmap. It's if everyone wants to integrate something different, then at one point there's like a curve at which we've built enough integrations to make sense for most customers. And then this is now a valuable product for most people. And so that was part one. It's like, okay, let's build out all of these integrations. Part 2 was I heard a lot of things like, oh, cool, you have a Salesforce integration. Now, can I do something after a call with it? Can I update my records after the call? Or can I schedule on the Salesforce calendar? Now these integrations are getting a bit more complex. People don't just want the one core part of Salesforce, for example, but they want other things. And so then again, it was back to the road mapping drawing board of how do we Venn diagram all of these things together. And what I found was that at least with every single customer at Thoughtly, everybody wanted to do something before, during, or after a call, which again, sounds obvious now, right? This is every dimension of any conversation that you could have on the phone. Once that made sense and once that really clicked, it was just a matter of kind of building out anything that could happen before a call, for an integration, during, and after. The real answer here is, for me, it was you're going to get so many requests from people. And every single customer's request is extremely valuable at that stage because they need something that they're paying you for, and you don't really know what you're building at this point. Putting them all together and trying to solve as many problems as you can with every line of code that you write for as many people as possible within your small cohort of 100 customers, that's going to do really well. But then extrapolate that to millions of customers And now you've built something that is most likely applicable to so many more people than you would have ever imagined, instead of building every single thing one-off, one at a time, on a bespoke basis for one person.
I'm curious, Torrey, how did you build your team? How did you go about choosing the people that you have on your team, and what do you look for in them to indicate that they're the winning horses to join you?
Casey joined the team, founding engineer, as he's now described. I brought him on because he was a friend of mine, and I was like, hey, I'm teaching you how to code. Why don't we code this project out together? Little did we both know it would actually become a company. It was more of just like a project-based learning tool. Then David, my co-founder, came along in December when I built a landing page. The product was ready. I was inundated with demos. Customer after customer wanted just a demo. And to me, as like a product guy, I was confused because I'm like, why does everyone want a demo? This is a free trial. Just go use the platform. Like, you don't need me to show you how to use it. But David came along during this period. He rightly said, people don't always want to just try something. They want to hear the vision and see if it can do what they want it to do. And he booked a demo with me and pitched me on that demo, hey, I want to join your team. And at first I'm like, okay, who is this guy? Some random guy coming out of nowhere who wants to be on the team at Thoughtly. But I let him slowly do a trial. Like, he gave him a few demos that he could take with customers. Eventually, over the course of about 3 months, he turned my little product into this huge sales engine. And he's actually generating a lot of revenue from these leads that came in, which was something that really surprised me because I'm just, again, like a product guy, and he was the sales guy. So he came along first, and that led us to be able to raise our seed round. So now all of a sudden, of course, we have all this capital and the need to actually hire team members. And my favorite story from people that I've brought on the team is I went into it with, I want to have people who are really dedicated to what we're doing. Understanding that I don't want to be like Brian Chesky, right? Brian Chesky obviously says, if you have a year to live, would you work at Airbnb? I think that's a little ridiculous. I would hope that somebody would spend their last moments with their family. But I didn't want to have that feeling on that side of the spectrum. But on the other side, I didn't want people to be totally tuned out and not really into what we're doing. And so in the middle, what I did was went through a pretty rigorous multi-week hiring process that was advised to me by various people, from investors to people I used to work with or people I knew. And when we got to the end of the process, I asked one of my founding engineers, my favorite question I've ever asked, which was, hey, this has been really great getting to know you. We want to go ahead and give you an offer. And this is really exciting. We think you're a great candidate. But here's the deal. This is going to be a lot of work. This is not going to be a lifestyle role. You could probably make double this at some IPO'd or Series D stage company here in New York. And it would be an easy job where you can chill and relax. This is not going to be that job. In order to make you feel like you didn't waste your time, I'm going to offer you a $5,000 Visa gift card right now to walk away. If you accept that, I'll send it to you right after this call. If you don't, then you can join our team, and welcome to Thoughtly. And he ended up joining the team. So that told me, look, I spent 5 to 10 minutes talking about how difficult this is going to be in detail. He accepted it anyway. And that's why he's one of my favorite people on the team now, because he's so dedicated, just like I am, to building a generational company with me.
This message is sponsored by QA Wolf. If slow QA processes bottleneck your software engineering team and you're releasing slower because of it, you need a solution. You need QA Wolf. QA Wolf gets engineering teams to 80% automated end-to-end test coverage and helps them ship 5 times faster by reducing QA cycles from hours to minutes. With over 100 5-star reviews on G2 and customer testimonials from SalesLoft, Drata, AutoTrader, and many more, you're in good hands. Ready to ship faster with fewer bugs? Join the Wolfpack at QAWolf.com to see if they can help you squash the QA bottleneck. This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted vCISOs to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. Simplify compliance and get $1,000 off at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory. This message is sponsored by SnapTrade. Link in-user brokerage accounts and build world-class investing experiences with SnapTrade's unified brokerage API. With over $12 billion in connected assets and over 300,000 connected accounts, SnapTrade's API quality and developer experience are second to none. SnapTrade is SOC 2 certified and uses industry-leading security practices. Developers can use the company's official client SDKs to build investing experiences in minutes without the limitations of traditional aggregators. Get started for free today by visiting snaptrade.com/codestory. This will be interesting, given what you're building, what it's based on, and what your problem you're trying to solve. I'm curious about scalability, right? Where did scalability come into play when you were designing the product, and have there been interesting areas where you've had to fight it as you've grown?
People ask us, what happens if someone else calls my Thoughtly agent while someone else is on the phone with them? Do they get put on hold? Do they have to wait? Or do they get both talking to the same agent at the same time? I think it's a great question because it's such a weird concept to have infinite scalability, but that is what we're selling, is infinite scalability. So if you get 1 million people calling your Thoughtly agent at once, that's 1 million different calls that will happen theoretically, right, at the same time. Now it just comes down to infrastructure. And so from an engineering perspective, scalability is a huge deal. I built Thoughtly originally as a Next.js front end and a Node.js back end running on Google Cloud Platform, actually Google Cloud Run specifically. Cloud Run is great for MVPs I've built in the past. It's a lot of fun, in my opinion. People might disagree with that, but I enjoy it. The way I see it is like it's Kubernetes light. So you don't have to, be a Kubernetes cloud engineer, but you can, at least build something that's pretty scalable. But it gets to a point where you need to scale up. And that's when later in the year brought on a larger engineering team to move things onto Kubernetes, who had a lot more experience than I did. And now the big questions that we're facing now from a scalability perspective are, of course, these engineering issues of how do we make sure we're maintaining millions of calls on this software, right? Because people are not talking on the phone. Our software is. How do we make sure that we have reliability from vendors, right? Like OpenAI and other language models we're using. How do we not hit a snag during these calls that are going on during peak hours of the day? But then also scalability of marketing, sales, operations, customer success. I've now built this into a formula where we can figure out, to an extent, every single aspect of the company, whether it's how many leads are at the top of our funnel, how many customers have converted to an enterprise package. And there's a formula for how many we can handle simultaneously. And then there's kind of 2 decisions that can be made. If we hit full capacity, then it just means costs could go up for these larger enterprise deals where people need tons and tons of volume or really close managed service. Then the price has to go up because obviously demand goes up, but supply maintains the same. Or we have to increase supply, which means potentially bringing on more customer success team members, bringing on more account executives, or of course, building out more robust infrastructure, which I think is a no-brainer. And so really that's where we are today. It's doing all of these things, and it's this dance where you don't want to hire people just to fire them. But you don't want to say, oh, we have a lot of demand right now. Now let's hire somebody. And then in 3 months, their demand has gone down. So let's fire them. It's about doing kind of the right thing at the right time. And so that's the dance we're playing today. And it's all actually based in spreadsheets. So this is something that we've found very successful, but maybe there's a startup one day that can do this with AI. That'd be very helpful for us.
So as you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built with Thoughtly. What are you most proud of?
I love the team that we have here. I think that the culture we've built, people just naturally are just so excited about what we're doing. That's not something that's extremely common. Everybody's so motivated. We have no in-office policy like that. You don't have to be in an office at any point, but everybody just shows up every day ready to work. People really care when things go wrong and really care when things go right. And I love that because this is like a family that we've built that is not something that I would have expected a year ago, but it's pretty cool to see. It's a community internally that we've built. Second to that is the community externally that we've built. We have hundreds, if not thousands of people who just on a daily basis interact with Thoughtly and then interact with one another. If they have a troubleshooting issue, they want to debug something, they just ask a community member. And there are so many people who know the answer to the question because people care about kind of the community we've built here. We have weekly office hour meetings that everybody joins and are really excited about, meeting new people. Now it's turned into a thing that people put in their LinkedIn bios, which I think is really neat, to be honest, and not something I would have expected.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
If you were to quantify a mistake as the cost financially, or the financial burden of it, whether that mean like loss of potential revenue in the future or actual money spent, then I think the biggest mistake that we've made to date is we really had this vision and belief that these contact center related events would be a great place to get leads for Thoughtly. We were pretty incorrect about that. I think that events post-COVID, they're not the same as they used to be. And so we spent tens of thousands, maybe up to $100,000 on running these events and getting booths at these events and trying to get leads at these events. And it ended up not really getting us anything. In fact, the last event, we didn't get a booth. We didn't get anything. We just sent 2 team members to just go be at this event and just attend, get drinks with people. And we had so much more success from that. And that cost like less than $1,000. So it's an interesting one, but that's what we've found. And we've tried those 2 different approaches. One, I think, is the actual sponsoring an event. 2 is, I think, what most people call leeching an event. So maybe not something that I'd recommend to everybody. And the latter went better, but we're really more focused at this point on digital marketing because I think it's just more bang for your buck when it comes to marketing spend. With that said, that obviously varies by industry. That's just this industry. But there are so many others where events might be probably the best, right? Like I've seen government tech growing up in Maryland, like outside of DC, government tech is huge conventions here. That kind of thing would probably be a better fit.
Okay, Torrey. So let's move forward then. Tell me what the future looks like for Thoughtly, the product, and for your team.
I think over the next decade, there's going to be this enormous shift in sort of these calls that are being made by businesses. And they're going to go from being made by humans to being predominantly made by AI. I think I have no doubt that transition is going to take place over the next 10 years. Our goal is to lead that charge. If you look at sort of the market, the large contact centers, the service platforms, they're not in a position to be able to offer what we offer. And if they were, I don't think it's going to be the same. I think these companies will continue to do what they're doing very well with human-first call center software. But we're going to lead that charge when it comes to AI-first call center software. And so I think just for even you, like in 10 years, you're going to get a phone call from a company that you're a customer of. And you'll have no idea that you're talking to a computer. Now you will know because I'm telling you. But ideally, these calls are being made to notify you or to schedule with you or to fulfill a request on your behalf by a computer as opposed to a human, which I think is a pretty cool, it's a pretty cool trajectory. So that's what our product is going to be focused on. It's really what do we need to build to make that possible and to make that easy. For our team, it's really about focusing on that. Our product roadmap actually looks like tons of integrations, tons of enterprise features, different ways to distinguish ourselves and differentiate us from other call centers as a service platforms like these ones I mentioned. And then building kind of a best-in-class tool to make sure that people can easily build something that takes just a few minutes to handle all of these phone calls. That's really what we're focused on. And that's a lot of work because there are so many different nuances to conversations and how people want their phone calls to look, sound, feel. And so we have to really account for so many different scenarios. And so that's really what we're focusing on over the next few years.
Torrey, let's switch to you. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
So in 4th grade, I dressed up for Halloween as Steve Jobs. And this is true. I got a detention because my teachers, they thought I was just dressing up and being like a smart aleck and dressing up in jeans and New Balances for no reason because nobody knew who Steve Jobs was because it was before the iPhone. And so I ended up, my mom came and was able to get me out of the detention in 4th grade. And they were like, oh, cool, this is an actual person. That's my answer. Is like, even when I was in 4th grade, I really liked Steve Jobs and I really looked up to him, the way that he innovates and the way that he thinks, the way that he focuses on building his team, building products and building a business. I just find really insightful, kind of everything he says. Outside of Steve Jobs, I also look to just generally the startup space has so much or so many resources available. The YC Startup School. So there's no one person I would point to out of that group, but there's countless videos and podcasts from YC that have even Sam Altman in them that are so helpful when you're building a business, because it's really something that's unlike anything else in the world. It's not something you just learn in school. Not even business school can really prepare you for a lot of this kind of stuff. Not one person in particular, but when it comes to startup learnings, I find that these sort of podcasts, YouTube videos, everything that's put out by things like YC, those are extremely helpful.
Last question, Torrey. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
When you're early on in the journey, my first question is, do they need this thing that you're building? It seems like a simple question, but when you really think about it, it sometimes knocks out a lot of the ideas that one might have. So I was talking to somebody recently who had they thought it was a really great idea. But when I pushed them on this, hey, will this actually work if it were to come to market? Think about who would use it. Where would they find you? Would they think that the cost is something that they can accept, and would they pay for it? Kind of going down that road, they realized, yeah, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe I should think on it for a little bit. But then when it's time to get past that point, you've realized, okay, I have a vision of something that should work, and I think people would pay for it. This price point makes sense. I've spoken to maybe 100 people who are in my sort of potential customer profile, and they like it. They like the vision. And the next step is to get them as customers. Put your money where your mouth is, right? If your mom is your customer, of course, she's just supporting you. Or your brother, or even your friend. But if you have 100 strangers paying you, you've never met before, that's huge. You are clearly solving a problem to a degree. And so that's my first encouragement, is if you can get 100 complete strangers to pay for this tool for $10, tool, product, whatever it might be, that should tell you something. At that point, that's when you drop out of school or leave your job. Because in my opinion, it's worth the risk. Like, you're going to take a risk, just don't take it until you have 100 people, complete strangers, paying you $10 or more each. And then you take those 100 customers, make sure none of them leave, right? Always make sure you re-up if there's churn, because it's going to be a natural part of any business. Then build what they need. And then try to aggregate requests as much as you can. So you're not just building a bespoke sort of consulting company, right? You're building a product. Over time, that 100 customers will turn into 200 to 300 and then 1,000. And if it's a consumer tool, of course, maybe we'll be talking about 100,000, but these numbers really start to add up. And I think it's these kind of things that you should do first, and not just, hey, I want to go out and raise money. I built this product and then spent 6 months generating revenue from it before I realized I wanted to raise any seed money for the business. When you start a company, you don't need to just go get money for it. And then if you don't raise capital, quit. Get customers first. Get people to pay you for it. And then that should tell you, hey, this is something that works. I'm going to double down on it and really focus on this for the next few years.
I think that's fantastic advice. Well, Torrey, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Thoughtly.
Definitely. Thank you, Noah. I appreciate it.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.